Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is simply called Discerning What is True. I'm going to be talking to you about the book that Phil Langdon did probably way back, I guess, a couple of years ago, called Revelation of the Holy Spirit, Decoded by Phil Langdon. And this is a great work he's done. You can get this book off of Phil Langdon's YouTube channel. Just simply go there, and it'd be under what I would call, Dropbox, and you can download it ebook for free. So I wanted to show you something else here right quick before we go on. This particular artwork that Phil has got here, I'll actually explain what this is. This particular symbol from the Assyrians long ago was trying to convey what you meet within your own head when you have the ascension moment. It's something similar to this. Phil Langdon also compares it to knotted, sort of like wood, not wood, wool, that's from a sheep. And it's similar to the shape and being in the abyss, which is it is darkness, that is, until you meet the light, which reveals simply is that your subconscious is trying to communicate to your consciousness. So we're going to read chapter 4, that is, and chapter 4 is going to be dealing with the emperor. Emperor here from the tarot cards. I only recommend only these tarot cards, okay? And the reason why simply is that they're important, and most people don't have the connotation now when they put out tarot cards. A lot of it's not even, doesn't show what I call the spirituality of what really is actually taking place. And this is actually aligned with the Kabbalah also, or Kabbalah, however you want to say it. So let's get into the reading from Phil Langdon. Just bear with me as I get there. So the title of the chapter is simply called The Throne in Heaven. So let me explain what this means. I think I've shared that yesterday, but we'll say it again to those who are new to the talk today. Heaven itself is real for those who have ascended and actually have done the work. But in order to get to heaven, you must do something within your own head. And this is considered your throne. So the throne is in heaven, which is within your head. So this is why we have a talk through some of the Gospels. It speaks about what I call darkness. One of those ascension moments, I think, is dealing with what I call Nicodemus, who meets God, I should say meets Jesus at night. I think this is a clever way of actually sharing the truth, because in reality, it is, when you have this ascension moment, it is in darkness. It's the abyss. And you eventually come up to what I was sharing earlier, what the woolly-like thinking, what looks like, that Phil has shared. And Phil's the only one that's actually done this, as we know of, on this planet. He did this approximately 10 years ago, back in December 2014. If you want to learn more about Phil Langdon, you can go to Phil Langdon at his YouTube channel, and you can request a lot of things. You can communicate with him that you have interest. You can read his works there also. You can buy his books there also, from Amazon. Although his mode is not about selling stuff and making money. Okay, it's not about money. He's just a regular guy. You see, he's not these quote unquote phony gurus who promise you the world and rob you. You understand? So let's get into the reading here. The throne in heaven. The number 4 represents stability in the square of measure and understanding. In Terra, the corresponding card is the emperor, who sits on a throne dispensing wisdom and power, like King Solomon. Sa equals sun, sun, sun. S-U-N, that is, the great magician and prophet. And let me do one other thing here real quick here. Let's see, I want to make this a whole screen. So let's go back out here. And I want to do something else here. It won't let me do it. So we'll just continue on. The 4th chapter in Revelation concerning the throne of God, the great doorway to heaven. Bear with me again. Trying to do this thing the way I want it to do, set it up so I can make it easy for me to see. Go to this part up here, which is so the 4th Hebrew letter is D, Dalet, Dalet, D-A-L-E-T, 4, meaning door, an appropriate letter to use here at the throne of heaven, the great doorway of our inner sky. It also means dol, D-O-L, a poor person. The word Dalet, or Dale, represents Dilsonia, that's D-I-L-I-S-O-N-I, which means to lift me up, end quote. The convergence occurs when every individual realizes that he or she is poor, meaning everything a person owns, in fact, belongs to God. God has been kind enough to give us life and substance. Without the Creator, we have nothing. Now into the book of Revelation, chapter 4, starting with verse 1. After this, I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." So what he's revealing something is to come up here, up to your head. A door standing open in heaven is the abyss, the door between heaven and earth. The Son of God is the voice already heard, like a trumpet saying, quote, "Come up here," end quote, or "Ascend up here." Follow it, quote, "I will show you what must take place," end quote, can only mean creation is going to follow automatically. Verse 2, at once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. Verse 3, and the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and carnelian, a rainbow resembling a emerald encircling the throne. This portion of text confirms we are dealing with ascension when it says, "At once I was in the Spirit," end quote. The swiftness is due to launching up into light speed, where time does not exist, nor does the universe. So this is a moment of what I would call transcending. The only place we can go so swiftly is to the right hand of the Creator. Before the throne of God, it looks like a majestic cumulus cloud with this thin white laser beams going out from its 4 sides, forming a cross shape. And that's similar to what I shared earlier before in the broadcast here with the Assyrian symbol The one who sat there is simply a personification of the cloud dressed in long white robes. Jasper and Cornetto are highly significant appearing in this passage. Jasper, known as the supreme nurturer, very much like the light to illumine it, symbolizes the glory of God. The blood atonement or at one-ment, you see, we have through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ occurs in the head when we sacrifice our pineal gland for its spiritual function. Jasper represents royalty, prosperity, and prestige. Its colors vary from yellow and brown to red and even clear, but these are rare in biblical references. Jasper can be green, the color of balance, and the heart chakra. Cornetto, similar, has a variety of reddish colors from its iron oxide content. Overall, these precious stones offer the color of red mostly. The colors of spirituality, in the sense that the lamb in our head is slain and bleeding red, like the stones when we become spiritualized from the heart chakra up. A rainbow tells us how the state of heavenly glory is the completion of the seven angels/angles of light. A rainbow arch is like the arc of the sun in its fullness, representing birth, life, and death. In this case, is illuminated with seven colors of the rainbow. The totality of being. You'll notice that simply seven is all over the place, folks. The seven colors of the rainbow. Everything, do with seven, a lot. Anyway, I kind of got that off the tangent here. Green is the color of balance between the two streams of red and yellow, and blue, or fire and water, esoterically. The elements associated with the light in the abyss. Verse 4, surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. They were dressed in white and had crowns of gold on their heads. The metaphysical triangle can fractional into four, giving a total of 12 corners when we isolate the manifest creative aspect, and naturally folds up into a tetrahedron. This is also the tree of life. Repeat the idea with physical nature as the four elements, the manifestations of the metaphysical principle, and apply them to the humanoid in whose body and psyche the union of heaven and earth takes place. See, these are so many different illustrations of the duality, so to speak, in our heads. See, heaven and earth takes place. The human psyche processes intellect, that is yellow, emotions, red, sense being blue, and intuition either black or green, characterized in the 12 signs of the zodiac as the great work of gnosis in the tree of good and evil. As the human head, the psyche has a structure that Carl Jung mapped onto the archetype of the tree of life and found direct and profound correspondence as an archetype, the four levels of the tree map onto the four somatic centers in the body and the four aspects of the psyche. When heaven and earth unify in the head, their mergings is modeled in philosophical geometry as the six-pointed star of David. So this is where the symbol is six-pointed star of David is aligning basically heaven and earth within you. You see, so these symbols do have representations. The symbol normally associated with the sixth and seventh chakra. When we fold these up into the three tetrahedron and unify them, they make a Merkaba, meaning light dash spirit dash body, bringing the two tetrahedrons together in union as the union of spirit and energy gives 24 elders surrounding the light, like a clock with two rounds of 12 hours, making 24 hours in total. The light in the middle then is automatically the 25th, the Son of God, born on the 25th day of December. And then he has an illustration here. If you have the book, it just has ascension, the union of heaven and earth. And then basically the two heaven, I'm sorry, the energy coming from one aspect and the spirit, and in unifying, becoming the Star of David, which has 6 wings, meaning it has the wings are just simply what we call like the triangle part of them being put together, so to speak, as the Star of David. And then we also can do it what we call 3 times 4, which is the 12 corners of this, which is the tetrahedrons, and eventually leads to what we call the 24 elders, which is the Merkaba. L meaning is God, and D meaning doorway, confirms the elders are close to the light, this doorway to heaven. They represent the occult structural meaning behind the union of opposites in ascension. The only light spirit body the Merkaba refers to is the light itself, not a spinning cluster of tetrahedron shaped energy signatures. Nor is there a tetrahedron frame of energy performing miracles around the physical body of illuminate, even if their chakras are all lit up. The Merkaba concept is the archetype in nature, born only by simplifying attributes of spirit and energy into philosophical geometry. You see, again, this is the whole idea of the masculine and the feminine. Okay, Shiva and Shakti. That sees a circle as an infinitely sided polygon, and as such may be used in philosophical symbolism to represent infinity. This means the 24 elders are, in fact, the cloud itself, simply because the light is the literal union of heaven and earth. Therefore, they all have the same attributes as the Son of God. That is the crown, the crowns and the thrones and the white robes and a sash. As already established, the prophecy of Revelation is that creation follows directly from ascension, and we have just heard about ascension in the 24 elders, signifying the spiritual union between heaven and earth. What should come next is, in this text, is the prophecy in truth. Should have something to do with the elementary nature of creation. So the verse 5 states, from the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings and peals of thunder. From the throne comes creative force. And here are the theoretical allegories for the archetype of the 4 elements, applicable to the fire and water of the light condition, as flashing of lightning and rumblings in association with the head, and peals of thunder heard in the element of air. See. Before the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. These are the 7 spirits of God. Verse 6. Also before the throne, there was what looked like a sea of glass, clear as crystal. Before the throne is immediately in front of or around it, and the only thing in front of the throne is the ascended person with 7 chakras, lit up like a Christmas tree, metaphorically that is, at the end of the Creator's right hand. However, around the throne of God is the emptiness of the abyss, transparent as a sea of glass in all directions, clear as crystal. We can see right through it into its infinite depths as pure emptiness. Verse 6 then states, then is a description of what the abyss looks like when we are in it. James M. Price, spelled P-R-Y-S-E, in the Apocalypse Unsealed, had to rely on ancient ideas to describe the sea of glass as either in the brain. I'm sorry, not either. As ether, I should say, in the brain, end quote. Quote, the glassy sea is the ether specialized in the brain, the aura of the chakra being represented by the 7 fire lamps or breaths. If a person has not entered the abyss, they will not know what it really feels like and will have to rely on ancient ideas or descriptions that are somewhat somatically removed from its experienced nature. Revelations 4:6. In the center, around the throne, were 4 living creatures, and they were covered with eyes in front and in back. The word in the center is the center where the cloud is. The throne is the cloud around the throne. protruding out in four main directions are the eyes of the cloud, like rays of the sun and like blazing fire. The beams pouring out, I should say, is lifeblood are from the living one, the Lamb of God who died and is alive forevermore. Its name is like Zoah and gives freely of the waters of life from his four faces, the four living creatures. In Genesis, the four faces of the cloud pouring out its living waters are related to as the four rivers watering, that is, in the area of Eden. And that would be the Tigris, the Pishon, the Gihon, and the Euphrates rivers. And these four rivers, that is, watering Eden, which has a meaning of delightful, blissful happiness, and paradise. So what he is saying here is that people will see this and say, okay, that's literal. No, that's not literal. Okay, this is, again, this is the word picture is what we're seeing here in Genesis, is that it's not a place. You see, it's a being, it's a state of being that is being delightful and blissfully happy, and we would call that paradise. Also called Pishon, that is to mean jump or bounce, refers to a strong stream of water. Gihon, to gush, meaning Tigris means tiger, that with whiskers, and Euphrates, the great and abounding river. So we have people today. It's a really sad story, really, folks. It's really sad because the whole world is this way. The people are still looking for a lot of things, and so they go to the Euphrates River, and they're thinking this is all literal again. And they won't find anything, you see. But they always bring these things up, especially Christians, because that's all they see. They see the literal interpretation of Scripture. And so, they look for these, this river, Euphrates, and the other rivers around it, and they think, okay, there must have been something here. Can we find something here that was, supposedly in their frame of work, 6,000 years ago? There should be something there still in their mind. You see, again, they're looking for something literal, you see, and they're not understanding this is all what occurs within your own head. In Revelation, I should say, these are portrayed through astrological signs of the crossing point in the heavens, representing the four elements. That is Aquila, the eagle being air, in place of Scorpio. Taurus is earth. Aquarius is water, and Leo is fire. Normally, Aquarius is an air sign in the zodiac, but here the characteristic as a water barrier is emphasized to relate with the cloud. The eagle also represents heaven as air. When taken together with the lion, it can also represent earth in this context. More so. So you see these symbols around even the throne. Sometimes I think in England, there's certain things you see. You may see an eagle, you may see a lion, such and such. More so, not simply because of the direct likeness and shape to the cloud, but its symbolic connection to the inner strength and courage represented by the lion as the creator and his great physical work. As a result of the displacement, the sign normally associated with water in this context would be Scorpio. However, due to the change in emphasis, another sign is needed to cover the air element, and the eagle is ideal since it not only rises with the Scorpio, but represents like Horus in many ways, the outsider of the of the other three regular zodiac signs, in harmony with our metaphysical blueprint of 3 and 1. It also directly represents the cloud as the bird of heaven, that is the 13th issue, or the 13th zodiac sign and product from the universe of 12. And I think that's represented even with the burning bush. You'll notice that there are 13 bulbs around it, which is also represented in the artwork of Jesus and his disciples, which there are 13 there also. Jesus being in the middle, and the other 6 on one side, and the other 6 on the other side. So they're on the right and left of him. Verse 7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third has a face like a man, and the fourth was like a flying eagle. This, I think, is shown. I don't know if it's shown in this book here or not. I think it is. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Let's look at chapter 4. Maybe not. I don't think it's in here either. No, it's not. Thought I'd find it here, but I don't see it. Actually, somewhat like this here. This part here, see if we can see this here. So the first living creature was like a lion, the second was like an ox, the third had a face like a man, and the fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around, even under his wings. So this is the photo of him with it looks like the wheel in front of the throne. We need to be careful here not to let the language of riddles get the better of us. Nothing is going to suddenly change. The cloud always looks the way it does. The ways in which it can be referenced can change though, and may be hidden behind a smokescreen of symbolic metaphor with a dash of personal bias on the part of the writers. The four living creatures here have been identified as the 4 sides of the cloud in terms of the 4 elements. When we put these 4 elements together as in a description, we are talking about their unification as the 5th element, which is to do with ether and also meaning spiritual. All personified by the dragon being all 4 elements at once. The 5th element is the light itself that generates the 4 elements and generated by them. When we read about the 4 living creatures having 6 wings, we're hearing about the light having 6 beams on either side of the body where its wings would be when taken as the bird of heaven. Again, it shows the artwork here. I'll show that real quick to you. This is this piece here, again from the Assyrians. Someone demonstrating that. Someone apparently had also had ascension long time ago. And this is what it's about. And you can see also the other ones hanging out each here, as though there's a wheel in the middle. Therefore, we may take the 4 living creatures to simply be the light itself as the 5th element, with its 4 sides emphasized as the source of the life-giving water. The creatures, that is, are alive and eternally productive in this sense. They are covered with eyes all around. Is certainly relatable to its beams as, quote, eyes, end quote, coming from all over its sides, most of which make a overall cross shape with two uniquely from the front. There are 10 beams from the top, arranged in rows of 3, like the belt star configuration of the Orion constellation. The sides have 6 beams each, the oars protruding from the hull of a boat, and there are 8 beams from the bottom face, quote, even under its wings as the bird of heaven. Coincidentally and philosophically speaking, we may also associate the six wings of the cloud with the Star of David and its six triangular wings. Quote, day and night they never stop saying, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. End quote. Also another quote, day and night is the first kingdom of creation in Genesis, the great evening of heaven and earth, the first day, that is, dos aspect of God. They never stop saying, end quote. It's a statement of the timeless and eternal nature of spirit. Then we have a statement of metaphysical twice relating to the cycle from the old boss to the new boss, same as the old boss. Three, then one, then three. Like the pyramid sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, making 7 colors of the rainbow, the key number of Revelation. Verse 9. Whenever the living creatures give glory, honor, and thanks to him who sits on the throne and who lives forever and ever. Verse 10. The 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They lay their crowns before the throne and say, you are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. So when you see what he's talking about created is not something that, he has to work at. He just simply is by his will, and it happens. This is who God is. By his own will, it manifests. It comes out. In other words, if it was, for example, if God wanted to make a house, you wouldn't need any workers there. Okay, it would simply be by his will, and it would appear. You see, is what I'm getting from here. When the light is made by each illuminate, the living creatures give glory and pour forth their life, giving water as great and abounding rivers in the union of heaven and earth, and all become one symbolically as the Star of David, heaven and earth unified. The 24 lay down their crowns to the light because they are the key aspects of spirit and energy that make the great Holy Grail. Their thrones are his throne. Their crowns are his crown, and their sash and robes are his sash and robes. The 24 are the Son of God, the unification of heaven and earth representing symbolically. The title elder has the prefix El, which means simply God. The next portion contains the letter D and R, meaning doorway and head, respectively. The title elder then means, quote, God, the doorway in the head, end quote. So what he's saying here very clearly is that God is within your own head, and the doorway is in the head also for you to come in if you seek this. Focusing on the issue of the light itself and not the cranial nerves that surround it physically, even though we may associate the number 24 with the nerves around the pineal center, euphemistically, the nerves are purely physical in nature, and yet the Son of God is distinctly both spiritual and energetically. Here is the deciding factor as to their specific association and identity. In the Apocalypse Unsealed, James M. Price, again P-R-Y-S-E, described the 24 elders, the 4 living creatures, and the sea of glass in purely physiological and Greek mystical terms, as if he has nothing else to go on and does not recognize the full nature of the abyss in the text. Here is his entry in the subject. So what happened, what even Phil's alluding to, is that James M. Bryce never had the ascension himself. He's just simply writing something that he thinks he understands in a physical, logical, I should say, and a Greek mystical terms, as though he's creating this thing in his own mind, trying to figure this out. You see. Quote, the 4 beings or 4 operative powers of the Logos correspond to the 4 great planes of existence, and therefore also the 4 mutatis, that is, or states of seership, or being clear-sightedness. On each of these planes, each of these 4 states of seership has a subjective and a objective phase on the plane to when which it relates. And this is symbolized by the many exterior and interior eyes of the being. As already explained, the nous, N-O-U-S, has its reflector in each of the four somatic divisions. This is part of the archetype here. Let me show you the artwork on this here. It's been, I've shared this before, but again, I'll show this, the archetype, the worlds, and the centers, and then eventually the planes. So the archetype is similar to a pyramid. The worlds are simply to do with what I've called abyss, black hole. The centers are basically showing what we call the areas of your body, the four main parts. And then you have the whole idea of the artwork with this, what we call planes between earth and heaven. As macrocosmic powers, the four beings are mystically, that is, the four quarters of the zodiac, the four arms, or to say, or the sun. And as solar forces, such as the septenate, radiating from a focal point into the six directions of space. Similar, the time periods are divided into fourths as the year, which has 4 seasons, you see, each containing 3 months. Them then being, that is, their being, again, subdivided into bright and dark fortnights, rotating, I'm sorry, not rotating, but making 24 hours a day. So you see the numbers here, again, with the 24 elders, you see, and you have the 3 months, you know, that creates what we call each season, you know, winter, spring, summer, fall, which reveals the 4 sides of it, you know, the upper part, the east-west side, and then the lower part. The forces which weather in the macrocosm or the microcosm govern successfully these various time periods are the 24, quote, very old men, end quote, or as we say here also in the presbyteria. The ancients, and they are identical with the 24 wings of the 4 beings. The glossy sea is the ether specialized in the brain. The aura of the chakras being represented by the 7 fire lamps or breaths. When comparing the issue of the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures, it becomes obvious that the author, James Price, as a theosophist, that there are missing explanations for things not associated. It seems easier with the Greek mysteries alone, referring to the abyss as, quote, ether specialized in the brain. In other words, he never had the effect. He never had the spiritual coming of him with God. So all he can explain it by is something what we call in the Greek way of thinking. Now, Phil has had that event, so he has already experienced that, so he can come back and come with the nuance of saying, okay, this is what happened when I had this effect in my life roughly 10 years ago. Does not convey its nature to the reader and proves that without the experience of being there, we cannot hope to hear about the experience. Correct. The experience basically brings continuity, it brings realness, and it basically reveals that something happened to you, and it's happened to you big time, you see. And the only one's going to be able to give you any type of explanation of that is one who has actually had that event in their lives. And so this is the reason why there's been what I would call the Dark Ages, which is roughly over 2,000 years ago, not quite, where everybody sees everything in the Bible as simply nothing but literal and historical. Then most people who are this way are not going to get it. They're bogged down in the physical part. They're bogged down in the literalism. They believe that somehow there was a Jesus that come here on this planet. And no, 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 no. Jesus came here, come here. It was going to be coming within your own head. So it's a personal salvation in a way, you see. It's personal because you experience it like Bill did, you see. It's not something that is outward, not some manifestation, some kind of a religious ceremony that takes place in a church. And those that do those religious ceremonies are actually in some ways just simply doing what has been done for thousands of years, or the songs they play, or whatever, you know, the way the building is built, that type of thing is only built there. And that's it only gives a symbolic view. It doesn't give you a experimental or experience in your own self. And yet people think that's real because everyone agrees with that. So it's like group think, or group what's the word? Everyone says okay to it. You see, hey, this is okay. You know, da 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 da. I give approval to this. When in reality, you know, again, they didn't experience anything. You see, they just think they have, or they've been told by their pastor that something happened to them. You see, and I think about my experience as that age, roughly, I think it was 8 years old, about this whole thing, which in a children's church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, you know, it wasn't. You know, they had actually separated the adults from the children, and they had their own service for the children. Then this was a massive church, and I remember the name of the church was simply called Northside Baptist Church, which was on the north side of Charlotte. That's what it meant, basically, the church. It was a big church, a very big church. You know, probably a couple. Yeah, I would think probably in my own mind, probably a couple thousand people went there at that time. And this was in the late '60s. The real problem for any intellectual is that nothing beats experience. Yes, nothing will. Without it, we are left to guess at the meaning of some of the text and try to fuse our background knowledge with the parts we cannot fully grasp. This is what Christ had to do and was mostly successful at it, simply because he knew the ideas presented through the general teachings of the mysteries from the mystery schools of the ancient Mediterranean, including those of Greece, such as as Plato's Academy. When speaking specifically of the Jewish mysteries, however, James professed a mistrust. Perhaps it was due to not becoming illuminate himself and not trusting the extreme depth presented by the Kabbalah, suggested a sense that it might want to be corrected somehow by a more pointed and applicable approach with the aid of the Veda tradition. And so that is the conclusion of chapter 4. So thank you. I'm not going to go too long on this today, but I appreciate you being here. Okay, let's see if we can do something real quick here. So this is the revelation of the Holy Spirit decoded. This was chapter 4. And so I hope that you can understand what's being shared here. So I'm not going to say too much more. It's about 44 minutes here. So this is chapter 4 of this particular book. Next chapter, it'll either be, I might do another chapter today, I may not, depending on what I've got to do here today. And then we'll do maybe a chapter tomorrow also. This is chapter 4 of this book. We're probably not even a third way of the book. Again, these cards in many ways can help you see some things, especially those who have the ability to see the colors and kind of put these things together, so to speak. The symbols in this cards revealing that. That's what Phil is using these things also to give you an idea. And again, I would always encourage you, if you do have any type of tarot cards, it would be this deck. The lady who did this was a Jamaican girl who was in Jamaica, and eventually somehow, I don't remember all the story, but eventually she gets to England, and the gentleman who designs this cards, I think is his last name was Waite. I want to say John, but I could be wrong. Her name was Pamela Coleman Smith. And I said, Waite. Yes, his first name was Arthur Edward Waite, W-A-I-T-E, and this is called the Rider, R-I-D-E-R, Waite, W-A-I-T-E, tarot cards for 78 cards, that is. This is probably her highlight also, this lady. This is her highlight of this artwork she did. Obviously, she was aware of some of these things, the symbols and that type of thing. She was not, she was a very smart girl in a lot of ways, and actually to share these things. Yeah, it's good to see you, Gerald. Thank you for being here. You may have already gone by now. I don't know. This is about 3:10 here. Thanks for being here. I hope that you guys will watch these videos and ask some questions in the future. I don't have all the answers. And hopefully sometime maybe we'll talk about that when me and Phil get back together in the near future. So thank you for being here, Gerald, and thank you for all who are actually watching this. And hope that this illuminates you, and that you have a deep desire within yourself to find out the truth, because there's very little truth on this planet, folks. A lot of hearsay and that type of say, and people who are phonies. So, and you can watch. I've actually had interviews with Phil Langdon on my channel, Discerning What Is True. I've done probably 12 to 15 interviews with him live. That is in the past, but in live, starting basically, I think it was in September last year, and been going throughout the whole year. He's taking a break right now, and that's fine. I understand that. A lot of us do need a break. So, wish you a good day, and thank you for listening. All right, take care.